Representative Terry?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent. So we're now live. Welcome everyone to the Committee on Taxation. We're going to have work sessions on several bills this morning. We'll start with introductions and we'll begin with Senator Libby.
Morning, everyone. I'm Nate Libby. I proudly represent all of the people of Lewiston in the Maine Senate. And that is all.
And Senator Pouliot, who came in just in time.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
State Senator Matt Pouliot, representing Senate District 15, the towns of Augusta, China, Oakland, Sydney, and Vassalboro.
All right. I don't see Representative Bickford with us. Representative Carmichael.
Morning. Mickey Carmichael. I represent House District 137, which is 22 towns in the counties of Hancock, Penobscot, and Washington counties. Morning.
Good morning.
And Representative Collins is not with us, and I don't see Representative Gramlich. Representative Hanley.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Hanley. I represent District 87, which is Pittston, Alna, Wiscasset, and Randolph.
All right. Representative Krajicek is not with us. Representative Matlack.
Good morning. I'm Ann Matlack. I represent House District 92, which includes the communities of Cushing, Thomaston, South Thomaston, St. George, Matinicus, Creehaven, and the Muscle Ridge Islands.
And Representative Perry.
Good morning. I'm Joe Perry. I represent Pride of Bangor and Pride of Orono in the main house.
Representative Sachs.
Good morning. My name is Melanie Sachs. I'm honored to represent House District 48, which is Freeport and part of Pownell.
And see that Representative Gramlich has just joined us.
Thank you, Senator. I am Lori Gramlich, and I represent House District 13, which is the lovely seaside community of Old Orchard Beach.
All right, and Representative Terry.
Representative Mo Terry. I represent District 26, the west side of Gorham, and I serve as House Chair. And I see Representative Bickford's joined us.
Good morning, Representative Bruce Bickford. I represent House District 63, which is part of Auburn.
All right, and I'm Senator Ben Shipman. I represent Senate District 27, which is most but not all of the city of Portland. Also with us today, we have our committee clerk, Avery Page, as well as Julie Jones, who's our analyst. And before we start the work sessions on these bills, I believe Commissioner Nixon is with us this morning to tell us about some of the reports and the work they're doing over in Opega.
I think you might want to have me start with the description of LD 308. That's the one she's here primarily to talk about today.
Sure, go ahead, Julie. That sounds great.
Sure. LD 308 is an act to promote research and development in the state by increasing and marketing the research expense tax credit. This bill has had a previous work session. Just to describe it briefly, it proposes to increase the research expense credit by doubling the amount of expenditures on qualified research that would be eligible. The credit is based upon a federal credit, so it works off of a lot of the federal definitions of expenditures that are eligible for a federal credit and then become eligible for a credit in the state of Maine under Maine law. It would also double the maximum amount of credit that a taxpayer would be able to claim from $25,000 to $50,000. The bill also would provide an appropriation of $100,000 to DECD for the FY22 year for them to advertise and market the research expense credit. At the previous discussion, previous work session, there was quite a bit of discussion about how much information we had about how well the expense credit was working, and it was realized that the government OPEGA and the Government Oversight Committee were in the beginning process of looking at that particular credit for purposes of doing an evaluation. And for that reason, you decided to table the bill at the earlier work session to get more information from OPEGA about the process and what you might be able to expect from them out of their work on evaluating this credit. And Lucia Nixon, who's the director of OPEGA, is here to talk to you about that. You have also since reviewed the parameters that OPEGA provided to the Government Oversight Committee and to the Tax Committee as their proposed standards for evaluating the credit. I think that's pretty much all I've got to add right now if anybody has questions, but other than that, Ms. Nixon is here to talk to you and answer your questions about their process with regard to evaluation of this credit.
Okay. So yeah, I guess we'll hear from Lucia Nixon at this point. If you'd like to speak with us.
Sure, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator Chipman and members of the Taxation Committee. As Julie described very well, OPEGA is about to embark on an evaluation of the research expense tax credit. Actually, it is in the next two, as you've seen from what's been coming over from the GOC for your review. The GOC is taking up this Friday proposed evaluation parameters for the historic rehabilitation tax credit and the research expense tax credit. And the historic, they had already sort of put the historic rehabilitation tax credit as what would come first of those two. So that is their intent, that we would proceed with the historic rehabilitation tax credit immediately and the research expense tax credit as soon as we could fit that in afterwards. So unfortunately, for the sake of you making determinations about what to do with this bill and knowing the impacts and outcomes of this tax credit, it is just not something that has, it just got to the, the top of the list to be, as you know, how the full evaluations, there's that whole list of tax credits to be evaluated. And so it has come up in the next group and we are poised to begin that work. And yet, since we do have limited resources, I can't say precisely when it will get fully underway or when we will have a report on that. I know that we're finishing up the evaluation of the seed tax credit right now. And then as that slows down, we're moving more heavily into the historic preservation tax credit. And then the research expense tax credit comes after that. So, yeah.
I guess I would just ask, I know you can't give us a precise time frame, but would it be fair to say that the report on the research expense tax credit would be done by the fall or sometime this year? Would it be completed, or do you think it could take it?
We're aiming to have the historic rehabilitation tax credit done by the end of this year. So I do not believe that on the current timeline, it would not be anticipated to be done in this calendar year. However, that's the GOC, if the GOC and or the tax committee directed OPEGA to shift priorities or accelerate timelines, we would deal with that request. But given the sort of normal course of events, I would not anticipate it by the end of this year.
Okay, so I think that was one of some of us were thinking that would be done by the end of the year. We'd have some information and could make a better decision if we carried the bill over. That sounds like this wouldn't be done by the end of the year. So we probably need to make a decision on the merits of the bill as it is now, not based on having a report done in time for dealing with it as a carryover. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Nixon? Not seeing any questions. Okay. Oh, we have Representative Kreiser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've already voted on the historical bill, and that's gone on. What we did is we extended it for 5 more years, which will give us time for OPEGA to come back. The two bills that we haven't voted on are the seed bill and the studying this, studying first. So those are 2 bills, and it sounds like neither one of those are going to be coming in during this session. So we should move on those 2 bills, and then we have the opportunity of, once we get the OPEGA report, if things are not working, that we can change them at that time. But I don't think that leaving these bills tabled for 2 years and while waiting for a report makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we weren't sure what the timing was going to be, and some folks thought if we'd have this report might be done by the beginning of next year, we might want to carry it over to see if there's some drastic problem with the program. We don't think it's going to have the kind of results that the bill, claims it would have. But we got to Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the three credits that we're talking about, they're not all in the same posture. So the historic preservation tax credit, that was simply an extension of the current terms for a longer period. Whereas with seed capital and the R&D credit, both of those bills that we're considering are making some pretty substantial changes to the benefit that can be received by the taxpayer. And so to me, they're two sort of different questions. The historic preservation credit, we said we'll push the sunset out 5 years. That'll give us time to look at the report, and then we can make adjustments after the fact. With the two bills we're considering, it's different than that, in my view, which is dramatically increasing the benefit to the individual participating investors. So the other point of clarification, it's my understanding that Seed Capital's tax credit report is underway now and should be completed by the end of the calendar year. And I see Lucia nodding her head. So, just
Yes,
Representative Kryzak, I think I heard something a little different. Want to make sure that was clear, is that we do expect to have that report back by the time we start the January session on Seed Capital.
Right. So I guess the question before us on LD 308 is, do we want to, pass this bill and double the maximum amount of the credit and make some pretty substantial changes like you alluded to, Senator Libby, or not, without knowing. And that report will be done, it sounds like, sometime, next year, but not in time to take this up if we were to carry it over. Representative Sachs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Nixon, have you already begun the historic preservation report?
So that one we're doing, we've been doing some preliminary research on that one. Yes, we still have yet to have the evaluation parameters for the evaluative part of it approved, but we've been doing sort of the foundational work that we do for all evaluations. We have gotten that started on for that one in terms of reviewing literature and gathering information on the program itself.
Right, and my question just being, if we've extended that particular program for 5 years, this is simply an evaluation. Is there value in flipping it with the R&D bill that we have, R&D report that we have no information on, that does have substantive changes to it in this bill? That's my hesitancy, is even for a program that has been going on for 10 years, we have zero information, and none was presented at the public hearing about how many people are affected. Like we did with the historic preservation credit, there was so much information on return on investment that was a pretty easy one to move forward, because we saw the return on investment. I feel like, and perhaps I've missed it, but I really went through the rest of the two pieces of testimony we had and your preliminary outline of the R&D credit. And I'm just not seeing that same sort of evidentiary basis that I saw with the historic preservation, even despite not having your full report yet. So I'm just wondering if that would be completely out of line to flip flop the two, so that we did have this before the January session.
I can go ahead and respond briefly, if that's okay with the chair.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, so we're in a similar posture with the historic rehabilitation tax credit and the research expense tax credit. It had just been communicated, I think, through the GOC previously to put them in the order that I mentioned to you. But since the evaluation parameters have not yet been approved for either, it's really up to the GOC and the taxation committee to give OPEGA the direction on the order. I mean, ultimately the GOC sort of directs us. So, but coordination between you two your two committees, we will follow whatever priority that you set forth.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Ms. Nixon and Senator, it's great to have Senator Libby on this committee with us because he's also the chair of GOC. Senator Libby, what do you think about that idea? I'm just curious what your thoughts would be to switching the order to pick up the review of this first and then do the historic tax credit, since we already voted to extend that for 5 years.
I feel like I have to be honest and remind everyone that I'm the sponsor of the bill to extend the Maine Historic Preservation Tax Credit. So while I have no hand in the actual OPEGA analysis, that's all handled independently by the nonpartisan staff. I do have an interest in seeing this one through in my final term, so I'm a little reluctant to say yes. I'd be willing to bump this review in favor of the R&D credit, but that's my personal opinion, and I'm one of 12 members of GOC and one of 13 on tax. So,
yeah, I appreciate that, Representative Clausen.
Yeah, we've already voted through the senator's bill. So, I mean, the report's going to come and we can look at it and then we decide whether we extend it again. I mean, they were looking to extend it to 2040. My reason for not wanting to do it only for 5 years is when I'm sitting on tax committee in 2040, I didn't want this bill to come up again. The other two bills, I think we need to discuss and decide what we're going to do with them and not wait for, for a report that we don't know when it's coming. And the reason is I know the seed bill, the reason for the changes in it is for this new company that's coming in to build wood insulation. And this was one of the things that were discussed with them in order to bring that company here. And it's an amazing company that's going to start something brand new with our wood forest, our forest products, and open up 200 good paying jobs in an area that doesn't have a lot of jobs. And the amount of money we're talking about will be made back in income taxes and sales taxes and everything else from these 200 employees working, also from this company buying all the other things it needs to get this company off the ground. So I think it's very important that we take a very strong look at the seed capital and the R&D right now. And we have the opportunity of, after getting reports from OPEGA, if it's not working, we can change it. Or actually, if I understand Julie right, we can change it at any time by writing our own bills. So I don't think the idea of shelving these things for till the next session is a good idea, where both of them are needed right now.
Well, it seems like we have to either pass this bill or not, based on what it says, what we have in front of us, not to wait on a report, which I agree with that. I share some of the reluctance Representative Sachs has about this particular bill and not having concrete information and knowing whether it's actually working, knowing whether, companies would have come here otherwise or whether they're coming here because of this. And we didn't have a lot of testimony at the public hearing on this bill. So I'm a little bit reluctant on it. I mean, I guess my tendency would be to vote it down. And then when we get that report next year, if it looks like it's promising and we could do a lot more, someone could introduce a bill in the next legislative session. But Representative Bickford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if it's been brought up yet or not. I had to step away just for a second, but it's not up to us to direct OPEGA what order to take things in. That's Government Oversight Committee's role. It's our role to look at bills and make a good faith vote on whether we agree that the bill is valid and is necessary or not. So, it's not our role to direct OPEGA in any way.
Okay, Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Representative Bickford said it well. My position on the R&D credit is, if I'm told to vote up or down right now, I'll probably vote no on the bill as drafted. If I'm asked, do I want to carry this over to January, pending a potential OPEGA review, then I'd happily carry it over, and I'd be interested in diving into those details and considering the bill at that time. And so that's kind of where I am on this one.
Yeah, I share your concerns on that, Senator Libby. And even though the report, may not be done, wouldn't be done by the end of the year, it could possibly be done by the end of our spring session, which is usually the middle of April next year. So that's some potential there if we were to carry it over. Representative Carmichael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you mentioned, Senator Chipman, about not knowing whether other companies would come even without this, but I think Mr. Henry's testimony, he was pretty explicit that, this is a very vital part of his development plan for that site. And, I'd really hate to lose an opportunity for 200 jobs for an oppressed area because of our inaction. I realize that we got to operate on the merits of the bill, and but I think I think the merits of the bill are fine as it's written. It's just we're looking for more information than what we have at this time. So we got to take what information we have and make the best decision we can. I just hope that we weigh the opportunity for that community heavy in our minds. Thanks.
Representative Sachs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to redirect us to the bill at hand, which is the R&D credit. I'm personally happy to talk about the seat credit bill, but that's not up for debate right now, because I think I share many things with my colleague from Greenbush in some ways. I would also state that because 423 we were asked to talk about to the government, this committee was asked for recommendations to the Government Oversight Committee regarding those two reports of R&D and historic rehab credit. I would say it was perfectly appropriate to be able to ask about the review being moved up. So I would just say those two things. I probably would be, as Senator Libby was, aligned in terms of if I had to give the merits of the testimony given and the policy recommendations for this bill to significantly increase credits without any evidentiary or other testimony, I would have to vote it down today. I'm happy to carry it over because there may be indications, but there's simply just not enough evidence right now for me to recommend such a policy shift.
And we've got a few other hands up, but before anybody gets to a point of making a motion, I should just formally open the work session on this bill, which I don't think we did. So we'll do that now, formally open the work session on LD 308. I don't know who was next. I think Representative Bickford maybe, followed by Representative Isaac.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say I'm much more passionate on the seat capital bill when that comes up. And I would be just as happy with this one to carry it over rather than see it fail.
Representative Krasik.
I make a motion to carry 308 over into the next session.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Representative Bickford. Okay, so we have a motion by Representative Krasik, seconded by Representative Bickford to carry over LD 308. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Just a quick question. The determination of what bills get carried over, is that an entire committee decision, or is that a chair's decision at the end of the session?
It's well, we're voting individually on bills, so like this one will go into our list of carryover requests that will go to I guess presiding officers to have to approve that. It goes on a larger list of carryovers from all the committees that the full legislature will take up and vote on at some point. But they've given us permission to, they're asking committees to keep their carryover requests limited. I think for us, they're asking that we keep it to like 11 or 12 bills based on our workload. So it's a percentage of the workload of each committee. So they're asking us to keep our number of carryovers to 11 or 12 bills total. I don't think we've reached that yet. And we could look at that again before we finish our work and pare it down more if we think we need to do that. But it's not a decision the chairs would make on our own. It would be just, I guess, the decision of the committee as we are now on this bill if we vote to carry this one over. And then we could revisit the entire list before we forward it to presiding officers.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Representative Price.
I don't, I guess you'll have to refresh my memory. I don't remember carrying over anything yet.
Yeah, maybe we haven't voted on it. Maybe this will be our first vote on a bill to carry over. I don't know. If
Yeah,
there's
I think so.
so yeah, this might be the first one. I mean, I think there's some others that some people might have in mind that would be good for carrying over, but we may not have actually voted formally to carry anything over yet this year. Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My memory is rusty. But I wonder if a more appropriate motion would be the T word. And we get to a point later in the session where the committee meets to discuss all of those tabled bills. Then we take votes on carryover at that time. That way we're making decisions in context of the whole picture. And I will support carrying this bill over if we decide on that process.
Julie, could you provide any insight in the past? Did we vote on motions on individual bills to carry them over, or did we just table them and then look at all of them at the end and make a decision? I don't remember doing that.
You mean in previous years?
Yeah, like the last session, didn't we vote individually on bills to carry bills over, and then we had a list at the end that we just forwarded to presiding officers and they approved. I don't think they rejected any of them last session, but
I don't recall, to be honest with you. I think it's been done either way. I think it's not uncommon for bills to be tabled, and then when you get to the end and everything has to be reported out by a particular deadline, the committee usually goes through the ones that are remaining and chooses some to carry over. But it's also I certainly recall that committees have known earlier on in the end of the session that they want to carry something over, and a decision has been made to do that rather than to table it until the end. But it's really up to you, I guess, how you want to decide to do it. I think either way is okay.
I mean, it seems like, an appropriate course might be that, if we vote to carry this bill over and there's some other bills we vote to carry over, if we exceed the recommended limit of 11 from presiding officers, and we'd want to, maybe meet and discuss them further. But if we don't exceed that, I don't know why we would take up more time to look at all the bills that, we've suggested being carried over, to spend more time talking and debating that. But so does this seem appropriate, Senator Libby, to just vote on the motion on the table of carrying this one over, or should we? Okay. So any further discussion from members of the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor? Go ahead.
I have my hand up, Mr. Chair.
Sorry.
Regardless of whether this is voted on today or it's on the table in a group of bills, it seems to me from everything everybody said today, everybody's for looking at this again as soon as the report comes in. So I don't want to table it. I want it to be voted on today to be passed into the next session.
Yeah, to carry
and that's my motion. So
yeah, the motion's to carry it over.
Yeah.
So all those in favor of the motion to carry over LD 308, please signify. That appears to be unanimous of all members present. Do you have everybody's name down?
Got it.
Yep. Okay, great. So LD 308 has been we voted. That's unanimous to carry that over. So we'll now go into work session on. Seems like we should maybe go into work session on these remaining bills at the same time, so we can discuss all of them at once, since they're all kind of dealing with the issue of veterans and tax exemptions. So we'll open up the work sessions on LD 576, 647, 897, 1166, and 1181. And we'll start with LD 576. If you want to walk us through that bill, Julie.
Yes, as hopefully you're aware, where you have these 5 bills that are all dealing with, at least by their titles, the veterans property tax exemption, I did a side-by-side chart to compare the bills, which I emailed yesterday when I sent out the chart for the work session. So I think what, if it's okay, what I would do is bring up and share that chart and maybe briefly go through each of the 5 so you can see what the similarities and differences are between the two.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Sure, go ahead, Representative
I'm
Sachs.
sorry, I tried to raise my hand. I don't know if it worked or not. I was wondering if, because of the changes, the sponsor amendment to 847 by Representative Warren, I wonder if we might take that up separately since it's no longer a veterans bill. I understand that the other ones really are, but because of the sponsor amendment of 847, I wonder if we might take that up separately, just to not conflate or confuse the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. I mean, we just having the work session open on all the bills doesn't, we could still talk about it separately and vote on it separately if that's the desire of the committee. But just opening up the work session on all of them allows Julie to talk about all of them together with the chart that she put together that compares the differences. Does that seem okay?
Yes, sir. I was just saying that 897 really is a very different bill than the other ones. Chart, even looking at charts, not necessarily veterans, which is how you would open the session. So however you want to proceed, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe we can deal with that separately, and Julie can talk about all the bills, and then when we get ready to make motions, we can just keep that one out and take up that one after. All right, so go ahead, Julie.
Okay, so I've got the chart up. Hopefully everybody can see that. The left-hand column is current law, which I think I should probably go through because the veterans exemption has a number of various complications to it. So that left-hand column and then the categories, the first one, the print's kind of small, I know. I apologize for that. It was, to get it all under one page, the font had to be a little small. But ignore the $6,000 at the top right there. But eligible veterans, in order to be eligible for the veterans property tax exemption, the veteran needs to be 62 years of age or older, have served in the armed forces of the United States during a federally recognized period, or have received the Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, which is my understanding is given for service overseas, or be disabled in the line of duty and receiving a pension or compensation from the United States government for total service-connected disability for specially adapted housing. The eligible property for the exemption can get a little confusing. It says the exemption applies to any property owned by the veteran and otherwise subject to property tax in the municipality of residence of the veteran. The property does not actually have to be the residence of the veteran, but it does have to be in the municipality where the veteran resides. So if the veteran, for instance, resides perhaps in an assisted living facility, but happens to own a piece of property on the same town on the lake, the exemption could apply to the property on the lake. It does not have to be a residence. The amount of the exemption, there is a special $50,000 exemption for paraplegic veterans. So these have to be people who are disabled and living in housing which is adapted for their paraplegic disability. Other than that, there is a $7,000 exemption for World War I veterans. You may not think that there are very many of those around anymore, but apparently there are some people who are still receiving the $7,000 exemption. It's a $6,000 exemption for veterans who are not World War I veterans, so any other category. And it also applies to surviving spouses, minor child, or parents of deceased veterans who are receiving a pension or compensation from the federal government. If there are any who still fit into the World War I category, they're probably spouses, or they would not be minor children any longer, probably. Anyway, effect on other exemptions. This was taken from an earlier chart, which also was making some changes to the homestead exemption for veterans in a prior year. The exemptions this year are only, the bills this year are only for exemptions with regard to the veterans exemption. They're not with regard to the homestead exemption in these bills that you're working today. State reimburses municipalities for the constitutional requirement is 50% of the revenue lost from the exemption for any changes enacted or increased after April 1st of 1978. There have been categories of service, time periods of service that have been added since that time. And there have also been the increase. It was in 1978, the $6,000 exemption was a $5,000 exemption. It was increased to $6,000 so during the time period that requires reimbursement. So there is reimbursement for that. It's based on the status of property of on April 1st, similar to all property tax exemptions. Back up to the top here. As Representative Sachs mentioned, LD 897, which is the first one on the chart after current law. Actually, maybe I should ask if there are any questions about current law.
Are there any questions from members of the committee about current law?
Although that reminds me, there was one other thing. Well, maybe I'll go through the bills first and then.
No questions.
LD 897 is a concept draft and it describes its purpose as to protect veterans from unfair consequences of property tax laws. At the public hearing, Representative Sachs is right. The sponsor submitted a proposed amendment on this bill, which does not relate to the veterans property tax exemption at all, or even to veterans at all. It is, they're included, but they're not, it's not specifically veterans. The sponsor proposed to amend the municipal property tax deferral program, which is a program that municipalities have the option of adopting if they want to defer property taxes on senior citizens, persons over a certain age. The law requires that the interest rate on the deferral of those taxes, so that when they are eventually collected, there would be an interest rate which would be the lower of the statutory rate, which the statutory rate is 0.5% higher than the rate for delinquent taxes. So if the town has a rate for delinquent taxes of 4%, it would have to be 4.5% under this deferral program. The sponsor would like to provide that municipalities the option to have a lower rate than that. So that's her proposal for this bill, is to amend that interest rate so that the municipality could adopt one lower than what the statute provides. I'll drop that there for now and then just talk about the veterans exemptions for now. LD 576 is the Senate President's bill, Senator Jackson. It makes 3 different changes to the property tax exemption. One is under the periods that are covered. His bill would propose to expand the period of otherwise eligible veterans to people who served between February 1st, 1955 to February 27th, 1961. This is currently a gap period in the veterans exemption. The Korean War covers the period through February 1st of 1955, and the Vietnam War period starts in 1961, but that period of 55 to 61, the February to February of those years, is not currently, veterans who served only during that period would not be eligible for an exemption under current law, unless they had an Allied Expeditionary Medal or were 100% disabled and receiving compensation. The second thing that it does is to increase the $6,000 exemption to $7,000. No, I'm reading my notes too fast here. it would increase both the $6,000 exemption and the $7,000 exemption to $10,000. They have been at their current levels for quite a long period of time now. I don't have the exact date. I should have looked that up and I forgot. The third thing that it would do is to increase state reimbursement to municipalities for that $10,000. So it's a new exemption. The Constitution would require reimbursement of at least 50%, but LD 576 would require 100% reimbursement for that additional amount from the 6 or 7 to 10. It would start with property taxes based on the status of property on April 1st of 2022. So starting with taxes based on the status of property next April. LD 647, Representative Kimes' bill, would make the same change with regard to adding that time period of 55 to 61. That's the only change in the Kime bill. There are no others. And her bill does not specifically address reimbursement, so the constitutional 50% would be required. LD 1166 does not have any changes with regard to the period of service that would be eligible, but it does make changes with regard to the amount of the exemption. It proposes to increase the $6,000 exemption to $9,000 and the $7,000 exemption to $10,500. So it's 150% of the current exemption in each case. Again, it does not have any provisions relating to reimbursement, so the constitutional minimum of 50% would be required. The sponsor indicated in testimony that they were in favor of other increases as well. So it just didn't want to think that they were only interested in this exemption, but that they were also interested in the additional, in any additional expansions that you might be choosing to make. LD 1181, sponsored by Representative Wadsworth, is a concept draft. It states that it would reduce the property tax on the primary residence of a veteran who is 100% disabled due to service-connected disability. It specifies that it has to be the primary residence. I don't believe that Representative Wadsworth was available at the public hearing. I did not have any testimony anyway in that regard. So that's all the information I have with regard to LD 1181, at least. It's kind of hard to follow, I know, if you didn't print out the chart, but hopefully that's all I have for right now.
Great, thanks for that overview, Julie, appreciate that.
Put that down.
Excellent.
You can see each other unless you want me to put it back up again.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So before we get into discussing the bills, I think there's sponsors from a couple of the bills here. Just wanted to offer them an opportunity if they had any additional information to present to the committee, since they are with us this morning. And you see that we've got Representative Warren with us. I don't know if you have anything additional you'd like to provide to us, Representative Warren. Representative Warren with us?
Yes. Hello. I'm so sorry. Can you hear and see me? But yes, thank you. Oh, sorry. Thank you, Senator Chipman. And I don't have anything formally to present additionally, no, but at this time.
Okay, excellent. Just wanted to offer you the opportunity. And Representative Dodge, do you have any additional information you'd like to provide to us this morning on your bill?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I do not have any further information at this time. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for being with us. So we're now in work session on all 5 of these bills, so we can discuss any of them that we'd like to. Is there any discussion from members of the committee? Representative Hanley.
Yes, thank you. Did we get a financial impact for the Senator Jackson's bill 576?
Do we have a fiscal note for any of these bills, Julie? I don't believe we do.
We do not have a fiscal note. I'm looking to see, sometimes Maine Revenue Services in their testimony will provide some information. I do not think that they were able to do that on any of these bills, though, at this point.
Wonder if they have any kind of ballpark idea of what any of these bills would cost. If they're with us, we could maybe hear from them if they have some idea. Senator Libby, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think a couple of these bills are looking to capture veterans who served between that period, 1955 and 61, and supportive of that change. And then just a couple of other points. I think whatever adjustments we make should hold the municipalities harmless to the extent we're able to. And then my final point is, I do recall in my first term trying to allow all veterans, regardless of their service in a federally recognized wartime theater, trying to capture all veterans and providing this benefit. And I do recall that at that time, the fiscal impact would have been enormous. I mean, many, many tens of millions, if not 100 or more. We just couldn't figure out a way to pay for it, even though it was very worthy. So those are my thoughts. Capturing this new time period and making sure the municipalities are held harmless would be what I hope we could accomplish in a consensus bill.
Okay, great. Representative Sachs.
So many computer issues. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to make a comment of support for Representative Warren's bill 847, which is one of the reasons, or 897, excuse me. Just because it's a small change, it's a simple change. It allows for flexibility for municipalities, which is the drum I beat often in this committee, and just allows them one more tool in their toolbox for tax relief, which again, they can opt in or opt out. I know many of them have different relief programs for their municipalities. Mine does when I was on the council. So I just wanted to say that it's a simple change, but I think one that can be an effective tool if wanted by municipalities. I can speak to my other thoughts on the other bills, but I wanted to just sort of encapsulate that.
Do you want to make a motion on that particular bill so we can maybe take that up separate from the other bills?
If the committee is willing to do so, I'd make a motion of ought to pass as amended, given the sponsor's amendment for Bill 897.
Okay, so the amendment is provided by the sponsor, so folks know, simply allows municipalities participating in municipal property tax deferral program for senior citizens to charge a lower rate than was required by statute if they choose to do that. Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion made by Representative Sachs and seconded by Senator Libby, ought to pass as amended on LD 897 using the amendment offered by the sponsor. And any additional committee discussion on this bill? Seeing none. Senator Libby, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did MRS or MMA weigh in on the sponsor's amendment?
I don't believe so. Julie, do you know if they did? I don't recall them weighing in on the amendment.
No, I don't. I don't have any indication that they weighed in on the amendment. It would not have been available to them ahead of the public hearing, so I don't know if they would have been in a position to do that.
I can imagine you'd have an
We
issue.
have Mr. Lacey here from Maine Revenue Services. He's the head of the property tax division. He could probably comment to you about it.
Yeah, maybe we could bring him on, and in the meantime, we'll hear from Representative Hanley.
Yes, is the motion ought to pass as amended?
Yep, the motions ought to pass as amended using the amendment offered by the sponsor, which simply allows municipalities to charge a lower interest rate than what's required by statute for the municipal property tax deferral program for senior citizens. Is Mr. Lacy with us?
I promoted him. He should be coming in any second.
Welcome, Mr. Lacy. Is there any additional information you'd like to provide or comment on for us?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have just started looking at this. I don't at first blush see a major issue with it. I mean, it's up to the municipality to decide what they want to do. But having said that, we have not fully analyzed the amendment yet. So we may need to look at it and get back to Julie or to the committee on it.
Okay. Are folks comfortable voting on the motion in the meantime? I mean, I guess we could always hold the bill in committee if anything glaring comes up from you, Mr. Lacy, but it sounds like we might be okay. Representative Bickford.
Yeah, this only allows municipalities, so there's not going to be a fiscal note, correct?
It shouldn't be, because it allows them the option of charging a lower interest rate. Yeah. So,
Okay, good. Thank
you. Any additional committee discussion? Seeing none, we've got a motion on the table about to pass as amended. All those in favor, please signify. So that is unanimous of all those present. You have everything you need, Avery?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. So that motion carries. So we close the work session on LD 897, and we're still in the work session on the remaining 4 bills. Any additional committee discussion on the remaining 4 bills, 576, 647, 1166, and 1181? You got your hand up, Senator Pouliot, but I assume that's from the vote. Would someone like to make a motion on one of these bills, or go ahead, Representative Sachs?
I think I had asked prior, just for my colleagues to ask the chairs if we had gotten any additional information on LD 1181, which was a concept draft. And so I wanted to ask the same to Julie. I'm not comfortable voting on a bill that's, I don't have any idea what the actual bill is. So Julie, do you have any other information on 1181?
I do not.
Yeah, so this was the bill that the sponsor was tied up and with some things that morning, and I believe Representative Krajicek introduced it for him because he wasn't able to be with us, and we haven't received any information sent. So it is just a concept draft, so it makes it hard for the committee to really do much with something like that. So it seems like maybe we'd want to, vote ought not to pass on that, and maybe do something on veterans property tax issues with these other 3 bills. But go ahead, Representative Matlack.
Well, I will make that motion ought not to pass on LD 1181. It's still a concept. We don't have it fleshed out. And we do have 3 very viable bills that deal with the same issues. So I think we can put this one aside and work on the other 3.
Okay. Is there a second for that motion? Representative Carmichael. So motion made by Representative Matlack of ought not to pass on LD 1181, seconded by Representative Carmichael. Any additional committee discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify.
Do we know if Rep. Krajicek is on? I only see his screen.
Representative Krajicek, if you're on, please come on and vote if you're in favor of the motion. So it looks like we're unanimous pending Representative Kryzak, if everybody else is
Yeah.
here in favor of the ought not to pass. All those opposed? Seeing none, so that motion carries. Representative Kryzak will have to vote afterwards. It looks like he wasn't able to be with us. So that carries. That's unanimous. Ought not to pass on all the 1181s. We'll close that work session, and that leaves us with 576, 647, and 1166. Representative Sachs.
I just wanted to echo what Senator Libby said, and I'm grateful that Representative Dodge is here saying, you know what, I'm okay to keep going with these things. I'm supportive of 576 only because it does much of what we would like it to do. If we're looking at it policy-wise, I'm cognizant of a fiscal note, but policy-wise, expanding eligibility, the language of the statutory pieces are more complete than Senator Kimes' bill, according to the MRS memo. So I like that statutory language in 576. I like the 100% reimbursement of municipalities, keeping them whole. So I think 576 does the aims of all three bills, but just maybe a little more cleaner and perhaps a little more fully recognizing the desire of Representative Dodge to help veterans in whatever way, incorporating her ideas, but I think it's all found in 576. So just for discussion's sake, I'd like to make a motion to ought to pass as amended 576.
Second.
We have a motion of ought to pass as amended on LD 576, seconded by, I didn't catch who made the seconding motion. Was that you, Representative Carmichael?
That was me.
Or you, Senator Libby, sorry. So motion made by Representative Sachs of ought to pass as amended on LD 576, seconded by Senator Libby. Any further committee discussion? Senator Representative Hanley.
Yeah, I almost got demoted there for a second. What is the amendment? I don't see the amendment language.
The amendment would just be the fiscal note, I think, on that.
Right,
Yeah.
I intended it as I assume there will be a fiscal note, Representative Hamley.
Yes, the amendment would just be the fiscal note, but there wouldn't be any language changes to the bill as it was presented.
Yeah, my hesitation with this is that we don't know what that note is. And so without knowing the actual cost, I'd have a hard time supporting it. And I come from a family of 7 sons and 3 daughters, and all 7 men are veterans. So I'm not at all unaware of the needs and wants of veterans issues. So but right now, without knowing what the impact's going to be, I have a hard time supporting this.
So Representative Hanley, I think the thought is between now and the time the bill would come to the floor of the House and Senate, there would definitely be a fiscal note. We wouldn't be able to take it up, I don't think, without that in the House and Senate. So we'd then know what it is before we vote on it in the House and Senate. And then if it does pass there, it would go to the appropriations table and they would see what funding they had available and try to fund it. And they thought they had to reduce it down from 10,000 to 9,000 or something, based on what available money there was, they could amend it there to do that. But I think the idea is to try to do what we can for veterans, but also provide consistency in this exemption so that it's not different thresholds based on what war you served in. It's everybody gets the same, 10,000. Any additional committee discussion? Julie, you've got your hand up. Go ahead.
I only wanted to mention that in their testimony, Maine Revenue Services did have a technical concern with the part of the way that LD 576 was drafted with regard to the location of the language, increasing the exemption amounts. I'm not sure what the solution to that is right now off the top of my head, but if you're going to vote for this, maybe you could direct me to work with Maine Revenue Services to resolve the technical issues that they raised. Or you might want to talk to Mr. Lacey now. I don't know if he has more to add right now, but I'm sure we can work it out.
Go ahead, Representative Sachs.
Right, I had read that as well, where it just says, as an option, the bill could be drafted as increases to the existing exemption paragraphs, which I would be completely in favor of. So it keeps the paragraphs, but just extends the amounts to 10,000 for simpler drafting. But again, if we just directed Julie to figure out the language, I assume that also works well too.
Yeah. Mr. Lacy, would you like to chime in? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I mean, I think that was the one concern we had, is that, you know, by adding another paragraph, there's that language that says you can only have exemption under one paragraph, so it might at least create confusion at the very least. So that was all. But we can certainly work with Julie if needs be.
Okay. Do you have any additional discussion, Representative Sachs? Okay. So we have a motion on the table of ought to pass as amended, to incorporate the fiscal note and also to allow Julie to work with the department to resolve the technical issues. Is that correct, Representative Sachs? And that motion was seconded by Senator Libby. Any further committee discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify. That's unanimous of all those present. So we'll close the work session on LD 576. And we still have LD 647 and 1166 left to take up. Any committee discussion on either of those bills? Your hands up, Representative Sachs.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to an ought not to pass for 647, please.
A motion of ought not to pass on LD 647. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Senator Libby. Committee discussion. You've got your hand up, Representative Kryzak. Is that from the vote, or you like to speak? Sounds like he's not with us. Any further committee discussion? All those in favor of the motion of ought not to pass on LD 647, please signify. So that is unanimous of all those present.
Mr. Chair, I'm voting not to pass.
Oh, I'm sorry. So that appears to carry. All those in opposition, please signify. So it looks like we have Senator Pouliot and Representative Kryzak voting in opposition. So maybe you could just announce the vote, Avery, for us so everybody knows of all those present what the vote was.
Yeah, for those present, I have voting in favor of the ought not to pass motion. I have Senator Chipman, Senator Libby, Representative Gramlich, Representative Perry, Representative Sachs, Representative Hanley, and Representative Carmichael. For those voting against the motion, I have Senator Pouliot and Representative Kryzak.
Okay, so that's the vote 7 in support of the motion and 2 in opposition of all those present, so that that motion carries. There'll be time for other members to still vote who weren't here. So we're now still in work session on LD 1166.
Can I ask a question on the last one, on that the minority vote is ought to pass as amended fiscal note only? Is that correct?
Yeah, with Senator Pouliot.
Senator Pouliot and
Either of you have some comment on what the motion is of your vote ought to pass?
Just ought to pass.
Well, it would need to be amended for fiscal note because there would be reimbursement required.
That's right. Yep. Ought to pass as amended for the fiscal note. It's going to die anyway, but I want to divide and report.
We never know.
Oh, I do know how it works in Augusta now.
All right, so that their vote is to pass as amended with the fiscal note.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Senator Libby.
having voted on the prevailing side, I move we reconsider our action on LD 647.
Okay, so we have a motion by Senator Libby that we reconsider our vote on LD 647. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Gramlich. All those in favor of reconsidering our vote on LD 647?
Can I just ask, I've been trying to raise my hand. Can I just ask why?
Yeah,
Is
go
it
ahead.
just so that we state again that we're in favor of the expansion? Since that was incorporated in 576? Senator Libby, maybe you can help me with that.
I'm confused as to why we have a divided report on this bill when we just unanimously approved pretty much the exact same bill. So I'm sensing there are political games afoot, and I'd like to reconsider the bill and have us table it after that.
Okay. So any further committee discussion? Seeing none, so all those in favor of the reconsideration, please signify. I don't know. So it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 voting in favor to reconsider. All those in opposition to reconsidering. So it looks like that motion carries. We're now reconsidering LD 647. Further discussion?
Chair,
Go ahead, Senator Libby.
I wonder if Senator Pouliot could help clarify the opposition to the ought not to pass motion on this bill, given that we, I believe, unanimously approved LD 576 just a moment ago.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important to have, multiple legislative vehicles in the event that we're not able to get 100% reimbursement out of this due to fiscal note constraints, then perhaps the avenue proposed by Senator Kimes' bill might be feasible.
Further committee discussion? So I don't understand, Senator Pouliot. So we put, I thought everything that's in Senator Kimes' bill is also in LD 576, correct?
There's a lot more in 576 than there is in Senator Kimes' bill, so a pared down version may be more palatable by the time we get to appropriations.
Okay. Just so everybody knows that everything that's in 647 is also in 576, but there's some additional stuff in 576. So, okay. Would someone like to go ahead? We got more committees.
Point of order, point of clarification. It's actually 50% reimbursement for municipalities. So it's not exactly the same. It's the expanded eligibility, but also 50% reimbursement for municipalities. So the senator is correct that it is a pared down version and may be more palatable.
Okay. Additional committee discussion, Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want a floor vote to be misconstrued out in the public. So given that, I'll be voting in favor of the bill. There may be a duplication once it gets down to AFA, but 647 will have a fiscal note as well. So they'll both end up there. So I'll vote in favor of 647.
Any additional committee discussion, Representative Bickford? Go ahead, Representative Bickford.
Oh, sorry about that. I'll make a motion ought to pass as amended on LD 647.
So the motion ought to pass as amended on LD 647. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Carmichael. Any further committee discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Okay, for those in favor of the motion, I have Representative Bickford, Representative Hanley, Representative Carmichael, Representative Sachs, Representative Gramlich, Representative Matlack, Representative Perry. Is Rep. Kryzak gonna come on? I just see the screen, but I think he might have left. Senator Pouliot, Senator Chipman, Representative Collings, and Senator Libby.
So
Oh, okay. I think Rep. Kryzak just came on.
So he's voting.
Okay.
So everybody that was here voted in favor. Is that correct, Avery? Everybody.
Oh, yep. Yeah, I have a unanimous vote.
Unanimous of all those present. Okay, so we now are close the work session again on LD 647. So we now have LD 1166 left to deliberate and vote on. Any committee discussion on LD 1166? Representative Perry. Oh, did you want to speak, Representative Perry? Or that was from the vote.
I'm sorry, that was left over from the vote.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, would someone like to make a motion on LD 1166? Senator Libby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not sure what the other committee members feel like, but I feel like we've moved 2 bills forward on this subject. Hopefully one will find a path towards enactment, if not both. And given that, if the sponsor's okay with ought not to pass, seeing some of the policy goals achieved, I could make that motion, but before I do, I just wanted to see what the sponsor had to say.
Yeah, if the sponsor would like to chime in, if you have anything you'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wondered if the committee wanted to consider the Merchant Mariner expansion that I mentioned, where there is a subset of folks who are not considered for benefits at this time.
What do folks think about that?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, go ahead.
Representative Dodge has been so good to me in the Education Committee on my bills lately. I'd love to support this, but I feel like we are making some big gains that are going to have some pretty hefty fiscal notes if we're able to move forward the other 2 bills we've put forward. Perhaps we could work to incorporate some of these in as possible floor amendment on those other pieces of legislation or something like that. But I don't know. I do see the merits of what's being asked for here, but I also wonder if that might be a feasible approach to take. And curious what Representative Dodge thinks.
Go ahead, Representative Dodge.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fine with the proposals that you are moving forward. I was just concerned that I had veterans asking me to please help them, and I feel that that is happening with the other bills that you are working. So thank you.
Okay, so you're okay if we voted this bill ought not to pass?
Certainly, thank you.
Okay. So given that, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion on not to pass on LD 1166.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
So we have a motion by Representative Bickford of ought not to pass and seconded by Representative Hanley. Any further committee discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify. So that is unanimous of all those present. So we'll now close the work session on LD 1166. So that finishes all the bills we had work sessions on scheduled for today. Do you have anything for us, Julie? Anything you'd like to bring to our attention, or any amendments or anything like that? No?
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, seeing that there's nothing further for us to discuss today, I guess we'll conclude the today's meeting of the Committee on Taxation, and we'll see everyone tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Have a great day, everyone.